Rihanna just sneak dissed Drake with an Instagram caption that instantly went viral. Drake has already responded, and what started as 3 words has turned into another chapter in one of hip-hop's longest-running feuds. Let me catch you up. It started on a boat. Rihanna and A$AP Rocky were spotted dancing together, while dancehall artist Spice performed on the Aura SOS cruise on a Tuesday night. Somebody in the crowd had their phone out, and what they caught wasn't subtle. A fan recorded the couple doing a move that instantly went viral. Here's the part that actually matters. Rihanna didn't just let the clip float around on some fan account. The video caught her attention, and she decided to repost it herself, sharing it on her Instagram story while zooming in on a man in the background who stared back at the couple. Then she added a caption, 3 words dripping with intention, "My ex in the studio," she wrote, as the saxophones grew louder behind her. Fans didn't need a translator for that one. Within hours, the clip was everywhere. One viral post on X racked up millions of views, with the caption pointing out exactly what everyone was thinking. Rihanna seemingly takes a shot at Drake via Instagram with the caption, "My ex in the studio." The replies turned into a courtroom. Some fans sided with her instantly, one joking that if you're in a relationship with 4 kids and your man's still bringing up his ex, something's wrong. Others pointed out the timeline that made this so loaded. Drake's been throwing shots at her for years, and this was reportedly the first time she'd actually responded back. Why does a caption like that land so hard? Because of what came right before it. Rihanna posted the video as tensions between A$AP Rocky and her former flame Drake continued to rise. This wasn't a random Tuesday night post. It came in the middle of an already boiling pot. Just days earlier, Rocky had sat down for an interview with Jason Lee, and he wasn't holding back either. Asked directly about the beef, Rocky suggested he'd be fine settling things the old-fashioned way. In a clip from the upcoming interview, Rocky said Drake don't want to see me, adding, "FK some gloves, nah, like bare knuckles like the Irish. We ain't doing all that celebrity boxing sate." That's not a metaphor. That's a man telling the internet he'd rather throw hands than throw bars. So when Rihanna posted that video less than 24 hours later, nobody read it as a coincidence. The math was simple. Her partner just said he'd fight Drake with his fists, and then she turned around and posted a clip that fans immediately decoded as a shot at the same man. The caption was directed at a man in the background, who seemingly side-eyed the couple, and fans quickly believed the comment was pointed straight at Drake. There's a reason people jumped to that conclusion instead of assuming it was just a fun night out. Drake had recently been spotted in the studio recording new music, which fed right into the "My ex in the studio" read, as if Rihanna was needling him about being back at work on more bars about her instead of moving forward. It's the kind of caption that works on 2 levels at once, literal and pointed. And this is where the title of this whole saga starts making sense, because if you know anything about Drake, you know silence isn't really his style. He's the guy who bought Rihanna a literal billboard once just to celebrate her getting an award. A huge roadside-style sign that read, "Congratulations to Rihanna from Drake and everyone at OVO." He's also the guy who, when things go the other way, doesn't just shrug it off. He writes it down, drops it on an album, and lets the internet do the rest. So a caption like "My ex in the studio," landing right after Rocky's fists up comments, wasn't just a cute Instagram story that would disappear in 24 hours. It was a public jab aimed at a man who has spent the better part of 3 years proving, over and over, in song after song, that he does not let things go quietly. Fans online already knew what usually comes next when Rihanna or Rocky take a shot at Drake in public. He goes to the booth to understand exactly how loud that response is likely to be. You have to rewind to what happened just months before that boat ride, because Drake had already fired the first real shots of this new chapter, and "My ex in the studio" wasn't some random insult out of nowhere. It was payback. Rewind to a spring release that dropped like a bomb on the genre. Drake didn't put out 1 album. He put out 3 at once. A triple release that stacked over 40 songs across 3 separate projects. Drake didn't just drop 1 album, he dropped 3. And within the songs released across all 3 projects, he took aim at a long list of celebrities. Buried in that mountain of music was a track called "Burning Bridges." On paper, it sounds like a smooth, jazz-tinged slow jam. The song begins with a jazz-influenced piano instrumental blending with an R&B slow jam, with Drake borrowing the cadence of Kodak Black's "No Flockin'." But underneath that mellow instrumental, the lyrics were anything but soft. It's a diss track aimed squarely at A$AP Rocky, and Rihanna wasn't spared either. On "Burning Bridges," Drake raps, "Your baby mama ain't even post a single. Damn, where she at?" Before later adding, "You saw my brother. You was trying to fix it. Now you drop your album. and you back dissing. That line, "where she at," became the exact phrase that would haunt this entire saga for months. Fans turned it into a meme almost instantly, and it eventually became the very joke Rihanna's boat video was read as a response to. But Drake didn't stop at subtle jabs about album promotion. He went personal and he went ugly. He tells Rocky directly, "KYS, ASAP. That's some S2T that you could do for me," and later raps about sharing women I already fucked at the height of my success. There's no reading those lines as anything other than a direct, aggressive shot at a man he used to call a friend. The internet noticed immediately. Fans dissected every bar within minutes of the album dropping, tweeting things like "Drake disses the ASAP Rocky on Burning Bridges." This wasn't a subliminal buried 3 verses deep. It was the kind of line built to be found. Music writers picked up on the tension right away too. One outlet described the moment plainly. On Burning Bridges, Drake delivers lines many listeners interpreted as references to Rocky and Rihanna, reviving a tension that had lingered quietly in the background of rap for years. That word "revived" matters, because this wasn't the first time Drake had gone there. 3 years earlier, on a different album, he'd already taken his first real crack at the subject. Drake appeared to diss Rihanna and Rocky on Fear of Heights, a track off his album For All the Dogs, rapping, "Why they make it sound like I'm still hung up on you. That could never be. Gal can't ruin me. Better him than me. Better it's not me." That song didn't stay subtle for long either. He raps, I'm anti, seemingly referencing Rihanna's 2016 album Anti, before firing what many called the biggest line of the track. "Yeah, and the sex was average with you. Yeah, I'm anti cause I had it with you." He then went further, comparing her to other women he'd been with, and taking a shot at her relationship with Rocky directly, pointing out that her new partner can't leave her, and joking that their vacations were probably to the Antilles, a not-so-subtle nod to her Barbadian roots. Genius noted his use of Gyal, a Caribbean pronunciation of girl, as a possible nod to Rihanna's Barbadian background. Fans were split right down the middle when that one dropped. Some called it disappointing and predictable, with one writing that Drake, rapping about Rihanna in 2023 and sounding as mature as he did in 2013, is as disappointing as it is predictable. Others rushed to Rihanna's defense, with fans pointing out, sometimes bluntly, that she had moved on with a family and a business empire and simply wasn't thinking about him. One fan wrote that Rihanna was busy changing diapers for the 20th time this morning and didn't care, while another pointed out she'd started her own makeup line, built a family, and earned an Oscar nomination since the breakup. So by the time Burning Bridges landed years later, this wasn't new territory for Drake. It was a pattern. Provoke, wait, respond, repeat. And each time, the target wasn't just Rocky. It was the relationship itself. The fact that Rihanna had built a life with somebody else and seemingly wasn't looking back. That's exactly what made the boat video sting so much when it finally came. Because for years, Rihanna had mostly stayed silent while Drake took shot after shot at her and her family in song. The "My ex in the studio" caption wasn't the start of something. It was the first time she'd actually swung back in public, and it happened right as her husband was already deep in his own war of words with the same man. While Rihanna stayed mostly quiet through years of subliminal disses, her husband did not. ASAP, Rocky has been the one actually trading verses with Drake, and once you follow that thread, the boat video makes even more sense. The two men used to be close. Much of Drake's animosity toward Rocky and his partner appears to stem from a perceived betrayal in recent years. The two artists were friends and collaborators in the early 2010s, but fans believe Rocky dissed Drake first on an album of his own. Rocky himself confirmed the friendship had cooled, and outlets reported the falling out traced back to a dispute over Rihanna. ASAP Rocky and Drake have been at odds ever since Rocky and Rihanna started dating, with Rocky previously saying that he and Drake were cool up until he and Rihanna made their relationship public. Once Drake's Fear of Heights line hit in 2023, Rocky didn't respond right away. Their beef on wax began after Drake fired shots at Rocky on Fear of Heights, but Rocky didn't fire back until he appeared on Future and Metro Boomin's Show of Hands the following year. That verse, tucked into a feature on someone else's song, made it clear Rocky wasn't going to let it slide forever. Rocky swung back with a verse threatening violence if Drake continued to talk, insisting that Rihanna would even partake in the violence if it came down to it. He also promised he wouldn't forget the disrespect. He claimed he wouldn't forget it and would keep receipts. That wasn't even his angriest shot. Months later, on a different track, Rocky went further, bringing Drake's own family into it. Unlike his previous diss, this one was described as venomous. Rocky jabbed at Drake for mentioning Rihanna on For All the Dogs, then dragged Drake's baby's mother, Sophie Brousseau, into the mix, seemingly claiming to have slept with her before Drake did. Then came the album that really turned the temperature up. Rocky dropped his own full-length project, and one song in particular became the center of the entire conversation. Fans suggested the track Stole Ya Flow was about Drake and Rihanna's rumored relationship and how Rocky had stolen her from Drake. The chorus didn't leave much room for interpretation. First, you stole my flow, so I stole your bitch. Rocky rapped, later adding, now I'm a father, my bitch badder than my toddler, my baby mama Rihanna, so we unbothered. Rihanna's response to that one told you everything about where she stood. She didn't stay silent this time either. She shared a comment about the track, writing simply, I'm mean, with an emoji, essentially co-signing her husband's shot at her ex. That's about as close to picking a side publicly as she'd gotten in years. Rocky, for his part, later tried to walk the diss back publicly, at least officially. He made it clear the song wasn't intended as a direct diss, explaining in an interview that Stole Ya Flow isn't about Drake specifically, and that when asked if it could be confirmed as a Drake diss, he said, it's for whoever feels like it's about them. Nobody really bought that. Fans had already made up their minds, and Rihanna's comment under the track didn't exactly help his case. By the time Drake's Burning Bridges line about where she at landed months later, Rocky addressed it head-on in interviews, and he wasn't diplomatic about it. He called the line flat out wrong. Rocky reacted to Drake's bars by calling them stupid, explaining, she did post my album. That's a direct rebuttal. Drake claimed Rihanna snubbed Rocky's album by not posting about it, and Rocky says that's simply not true. He went further in a separate sit-down, framing the entire situation as exhausting rather than threatening. Rocky said it's weird that he and Rihanna have moved on with their lives, while Drake, with whom Rihanna had an on-again, off-again relationship from 2009 to 2016, is still strung up on that S, adding, it's bugged out to me. He also pointed to something bigger than just song lyrics, the swirl of fan accounts and anonymous pages that kept the drama alive online. Rocky said the tension is especially intense because of smear campaigns on the internet, with fans running with their own narratives and popping off from behind their keyboards. He even confirmed something fans had suspected for a while, that visual jabs at Drake weren't limited to lyrics. In the same interview, Rocky confirmed that the imagery of an owl in crosshairs, used throughout his tour, was a direct shot at Drake, whose OVO logo is an owl. So when Rihanna posted that boat video with the My Ex in the Studio caption, it wasn't happening in a vacuum. It came right after her husband told a national radio host he'd fight Drake bare knuckle. It came after months of Rocky calling Drake's bars stupid in public. It came after a chorus that literally bragged about stealing her. This was a couple that had spent the better part of a year publicly, repeatedly, refusing to let Drake's shots go unanswered, and Rihanna's caption was her joining that fight directly, maybe for the first time in years. To understand why one Instagram caption could set off this much noise, you have to go back to where all of this actually started, because Drake and Rihanna's history goes back further than either Rocky feud, further than any of these albums. The two of them first crossed paths in the music industry over 15 years ago. Rihanna and Drake first sparked romance rumors in 2009, and although the pair never officially confirmed a relationship, they were linked on and off between 2009 and 2016. During that stretch, they weren't just rumored lovers, they were genuine collaborators, working together on some of the biggest records of that era. They worked on past songs, including What's My Name, from Rihanna's 2010 album Loud, and Take Care, the title track off Drake's 2011 album of the same name. Years later, they team up again on a dancehall-inspired single that became one of the biggest songs of the decade, complete with a Toronto casting call for the music video that drew hundreds of hopeful dancers. The music video was for Rihanna's track Work, featuring Drake, off her album Anti, and hundreds of dancers lined up for a chance to be in it. Then came the moment everybody still brings up whenever this feud resurfaces, the 2016 VMAs. Drake didn't just present Rihanna with an award that night. He turned it into a declaration. Drake presented Rihanna with MTV's Video Vanguard Award, saying he'd been in love with her for years and had always looked up to her, even though she's younger than him. In the moment, Rihanna seemed touched. She responded on Instagram, telling Drake the speech was so touching and I love you for that. Before that ceremony even happened, Drake had already gone big in a different way, buying her an actual billboard to celebrate the honor. Following news that she'd received the award, Drake surprised her with a huge roadside-style sign reading, "Congratulations to Rihanna" from Drake and everyone at OVO. Rihanna posted a photo of it with a playful caption calling him extra. At the time, it read like a fairy tale moment between two people who clearly still cared about each other. And unsurprisingly, it reignited dating rumors all over again. But the fairy tale read didn't survive contact with Rihanna's own retelling of it. 2 years later, speaking to Vogue, she painted a very different picture of how that night actually felt, from where she was standing. Rihanna revealed she no longer had a friendship with Drake, telling Vogue that wading through his VMA speech was probably the most uncomfortable part of the whole experience. She didn't sugarcoat why. Reflecting on it, she said, "Wading through that speech was probably the most uncomfortable part," adding, "I don't like too many compliments. I don't like to be put on blast." And then came the line that would get quoted for years afterward, whenever anyone asked about their relationship status. She said plainly, "We don't have a friendship now, but we're not enemies either. It is what it is." That quote became the unofficial epitaph for their relationship. Not hostile, not warm, just done. Except it never fully stayed done. Drake kept bringing her up in interviews long after that. In one conversation, he reflected on the relationship with something close to regret, admitting the ending stayed with him. Drake said he felt his relationship with Rihanna meant more than a fling, explaining, "At the time it hurt, but she didn't mean to," adding, "I'll never put that on her." That's a strikingly gentle tone for a man who in the same decade would go on to rap about their sex life being average on a studio album. That contradiction, tender in interviews, brutal on tracks, became the defining shape of this entire saga. He also stirred things up in unrelated corners of his dating history along the way, including a controversial decision to work with Rihanna's ex Chris Brown years after their own headline-making altercation, explaining publicly that he never wanted her to feel disrespected by the collaboration. Drake addressed the decision directly in a lengthy podcast interview, discussing his history with Rihanna alongside some of the biggest names in music. Meanwhile, Rihanna moved forward in a way that looked nothing like waiting around. She built a cosmetics empire, expanded into fashion and lingerie, earned award nominations, and eventually settled into a family with Rocky, welcoming children and reportedly marrying quietly along the way. Rihanna is settled down with Rocky, whom she has 3 children with and is rumored to have secretly married. That's the backdrop that makes every single lyric, every caption, every radio interview clip land the way it does. This isn't two strangers throwing shots for entertainment. It's two people with 15 years of shared history, one album collaboration after another, one uncomfortable award speech, one billboard, one blunt magazine quote, all of it sitting underneath every new line either side drops. When Drake raps about the sex being average, it's not a throwaway bar. When Rihanna captions a video "My Ex in the Studio," it's not random either. Both of them are drawing from the same decade-long well. So where does all of this actually leave things? Because as of the boat video, nobody's pretending it's over. Music outlets covering the story in real time were already predicting the next move before the ink was dry on Rihanna's caption. Fans and writers alike expected a response from Drake, with one outlet noting, "We'll probably get a response from Drake on Instagram before a song," while adding that maybe his next release will include some sort of jab at the couple. That's not a wild guess. That's just recognizing the pattern that's played out for 3 straight years. A shot lands, months pass, then a song drops with names attached to specific lines that leave no ambiguity. And Drake has never been the type to let a public jab from an ex go unanswered forever. Look at the sequence again. Rihanna and Rocky's relationship goes public, and Drake responds 2 years later with Fear of Heights. Rocky drops Stole Ya Flow, and Rihanna co-signs it in the comments. And months later, Drake responds with an entire triple album stuffed with lines about where she at, and worse. Every single time this couple has taken a shot, publicly or through a comment section, Drake has eventually answered back in the booth. There's no reason for anyone watching this closely to expect that pattern breaks now. Rocky, for his part, doesn't sound like a man expecting this to cool down either. His comments about bare-knuckle fighting weren't walked back, and his interviews have made clear he sees the tension as ongoing, not resolved. "He don't want to see me. Rocky said of Drake, insisting he'd rather settle things bare knuckles like the Irish than through any kind of organized boxing match. Whether or not that's serious, it's the kind of quote designed to keep the story alive. And it did exactly that. Clips of it were still circulating alongside the boat video within the same news cycle. Rihanna, meanwhile, has shifted from silence to subtle but unmistakable participation. For years, she let Rocky do the talking on wax while she stayed off the record. That changed twice in a matter of months. First with a comment under Stole Ya Flow, then with a caption on her own story that fans instantly connected to her ex. Two moves, both public, both timed to land right when the temperature was already rising. That's not someone trying to make peace. That's someone who decided silence wasn't serving her anymore. What makes this particular chapter different from the earlier rounds is the venue. Album lyrics can always be waved off as artistic license, open to interpretation, deniable in interviews. That's exactly the defense Rocky used with Stole Ya Flow, insisting it wasn't about anyone specific, but an Instagram story with a caption aimed at a man visibly reacting in the background. Doesn't have that same wiggle room. It's real time, it's personal, and it's aimed with a precision that lyrics dressed up in metaphor rarely carry. There's also the matter of the timing lining up with Drake's own studio activity. Reports that he'd recently been spotted working on new material only added fuel to how fans read Rihanna's caption. If a new project is already taking shape, and if his history of responding to provocation holds, the expectation across the fan base is straightforward. Whatever comes out of that studio session is going to carry names attached to it, the same way Burning Bridges and Fear of Heights did before it. For now, the story sits exactly where it sat for 3 years. Shots fired, shots answered, silence, repeat. Rihanna built a family and an empire while staying mostly above the fray in public. Rocky turned every diss into a chorus and dared anyone to say it wasn't about him. And Drake, true to the pattern that's defined this entire saga, keeps circling back to the same well. Every time either of them pokes at him, a decade-old relationship that never quite closed the book, now playing out across albums, comment sections, radio interviews, and one boat ride caught on somebody's phone camera. Whether the next answer comes as a verse, another interview clip, or something dropped without warning at midnight, one thing about this triangle has stayed consistent from the very first For All the Dogs line. To the very last boat video caption, nobody involved seems capable of just letting it go quiet for long.